Good morning to my Boundless friends. My name is Bethany Kempfert from Boundless LLC, myofascial release and physical therapy. I'm coming to you today to talk about stretching. I'm specifically going to talk about stretching the hamstrings, but really as we go through the principles that I talk about here in regards to how to stretch safely and how to stretch according to myofascial release principles, those are going to apply for any type of stretching that you do to any part of your body. And I would say most of us know stretches. You know, we learn stretches in grade school, we learn stretches in high school and sports and fitness classes. But I have to say the principles that I now follow for stretching are a little different than what I learned growing up and even what I learned in physical therapy school. When I am following myofascial release principles, the most important thing is that we never force. When we try to force our bodies, what our bodies do is they go into protection mode. And instead of our bodies and our tissues being willing to elongate and stretch, what they'll do instead is they'll tighten down and resist. And so there's really limited effectiveness in stretching if we're just fighting ourselves at it. So I'll kind of give you some pointers as we go along. So, of course, there's so many different ways that you can stretch your hamstrings. I'm going to start with the one I learned way back in cross country in 7th grade, which is what we used to call the hurdler stretch. Of course, I'm going to teach the modified version of that. The old hurdler stretch was one leg forward and the other knee back. Oh, I can't quite see. The other leg back like this. And, you know, kids can do that just fine. I really don't like what that does to your knees. So my version of the hurdler stretch is a little bit milder, and that is just let one leg come up a little bit and then knock out to the side. What that does is that takes the pressure off of our back. If we just do a double leg stretch, that's a lot of stretch on our back. And if we aren't really, really respecting our body, that can cause more problems than benefit. So by taking this leg out to the side, you take a little pressure off of your back, and we kind of do a little more isolation towards stretching one leg. So here's where things get just a little bit different than what you might typically do. Most of us, if we're going to do a hamstring stretch, we're going to try to get down there as far as we can and maybe pulling our toes. And that's where I say that gets to be too aggressive. So rather than doing that, what I want you to do is get in this position, and I want you to start by just sitting upright. Bring your chest tall and start to think about imagining that your leg is being gently stretched by a small rubber band, whatever you want to think about. It's being gently stretched away from you. And that's all you're going to do is think about that sensation of the gentle elongation of your leg. And we're going to give that about 30 seconds just to give you that sense of elongation. And then we're going to also think about that elongation in the other direction. As you're thinking about that elongation of your leg going that way, I want you to think about the elongation coming around your hip, around the back, and up, and think about elongation through the top of your head, getting taller and taller through the top of your head, longer and longer through your leg. Just simply doing that visualization already starts the process of this being an effective stretch. Okay? Some of you, having just lifted your chest in this position, may actually find that it was enough stretch or maybe even too much stretch. If you happen to have really, really tight hamstring muscles, you would maybe want to do a stretch like this, sitting on I have a rolled sheet here, but sitting on a rolled sheet or something. In that case, I'm going to just bend this leg like this, because that takes a little bit of the tension off of those muscles to begin with, because we don't want to start a stretch when it's already too aggressive. So just know that that's an option, or even sitting on a short chair with your legs straight can be an alternative to this. So going back to where I was at with that, you're thinking about that elongation out the leg, the elongation up the top of your head. If you do not already feel a very gentle stretch, what you would do would be start to lean your chest forward a little bit until you do start to feel that gentle stretch. And as soon as you feel the gentle stretch, it's that first sense of restriction, that first sense of resistance is where you're going to stop and hold. And you can spend some time again with that visualization of your leg lengthening, your chest and torso lengthening. And you can also spend some time with some breathing, realizing that as you exhale is when your body tends to soften, and that may be the time where you're actually able to reach a little bit further. Now, if somebody has significant back problems, I will sometimes teach this as strictly a straight up and down, hinging your hip stretch. But most of us need some mobility in our back as well. So after this initial stage, I'm okay if your head and your shoulders want to reach down over your leg and get the stretch that way. But again, making the point that this should never feel forced. You should never feel like you're really trying to force it and cram down there. It should always just feel gentle and keeping that same sense. Elongated leg. Think about elongating and curving over your back and over your head into a nice curving line. Breathing in, breathing out, and soften. Breathing in, breathing out, and soften. And so notice that over time, you're going to feel like it's easy to extend that stretch rather than having it be forceful. And that's what we want to go for. Always the ease of the stretch rather than the force. Now, I want to talk a little bit too about listening to your body. If we just listen to our body and we think about elongation, sometimes our stretches become different as we go along. And by that I mean, as I'm sitting here and I'm thinking about elongating, I might find that my leg wants to roll out for a little while. And that shifts the stretch just a little bit. I might, as I think about stretching and elongating, maybe my leg's going to want to roll in a little bit, and that will adjust the stretch just a little bit. Maybe my toes are going to want to pull up. My toes are going to want to go down. Maybe my torso is going to reach towards the outside. Maybe my torso can reach towards the inside. Realize that there are so many subtle ways to adjust your stretch. And rather than saying there's a right way and a wrong way, I want to say let your body be your guide. Where does your body let you soften? Where does your body let you elongate? And you might find that as you go along, what started out as a stretch like this, maybe eventually it feels like it wants to change. My hip starts to get a little sore. That might change into a stretch where I'm elongating like this. Let your stretching be a gentle flow between stretches, without worrying so much about perfect form, but always listening to your body. So that's what I'm going to talk about for the initial stretch. I said I would present a couple different stretches for the hamstrings. The other one that I've learned more in my physical therapy training that is a very, very gentle way to do a hamstring stretch is simply laying down, knees bent. Bring one knee up towards your chest and hold if you can behind your knee, or you can use a towel behind your knee if this is too much of a reach. And then it is simply straightening your leg. And again, straighten your leg until you feel that first sense of resistance. And then that's where you're going to hold. And you're going to think again about that elongation out through your toes, that elongation up through your head. And the other thing that you can add into this one that you're not going to be able to see on the video, so I'll bend my leg back down with your foot up straight like that, your leg up straight. You can add some ups and downs with your toes every now and then. And that also will help to limber up and lengthen this muscle here. Again, you can adjust. Your leg might turn in a little bit. Your leg might turn out a little bit. You may find that you're going to feel comfortable pulling your knee a little closer to your chest. All those little adjustments can be made so that you're listening to your own body when you do your stretching. All right, that's what I'm going to finish up with for today. I hope that you're taking some time each day to do a little bit of self-care to keep your body limber and healthy. And I'll look forward to seeing you in future videos. I do plan this week to start doing Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I'll probably stick with the 10 o'clock time, but just look for me on those days. I hope you're doing well, and I will see you again on Wednesday. Thank you.